The rules of war shattered as Captain Tanaka unleashed her masterstroke. Dozens of holographic valor projections materializing throughout the mining ring, while drones amplified the illusion. When the Judge of Silence's targeting systems faltered, she flooded Xarnath frequencies with human entertainment, bewildering their battle AI and fascinating their crew, forcing the mighty Captain Shehun into a face-saving retreat. The Xarnath sector stretched across the edge of human-controlled space like a vast, glittering net. Captain Mira Tanaka stood on the bridge of the UNS Valor, watching the stars through the viewport. Her vessel, once a humble mining ship, now represented humanity's tenuous foothold in this contested region of space. "Status report on the mineral convoy," Mira said, her voice carrying the quiet authority that had become her trademark over 5 years of frontier command. Lieutenant Rao glanced up from his console. "All ships reporting nominal function. Captain, we're maintaining position above Coronis Phi's northern hemisphere. Extraction teams are on schedule." Mira nodded, satisfaction briefly crossing her features before returning to their customary vigilance. The resource-rich planet below represented both opportunity and danger. Its rare mineral deposits were crucial to Earth's expansion efforts. But the proximity to Xarnath territory made every operation a calculated risk. "And our long-range sensors?" she asked. "Clear for now," Rao replied, though his tone suggested the "for now" carried significant weight. But intelligence suggests increased Xarnath activity in adjacent systems. The Cold War between humanity and the Xarnath Empire had persisted for nearly 2 decades. Unlike humans, who adapted their strategies to circumstances, the Xarnath operated on a doctrine they called absolute control, unwavering adherence to established protocols and overwhelming force. Their ships outnumbered the human fleet 3-1, but their tactical rigidity had thus far prevented them from securing a decisive advantage. "Increase scan frequency," Mira ordered, "and have the mining teams expedite their final extractions. I want us ready to depart within 6 hours." Her instincts, honed through countless border skirmishes, were signaling danger. The Valor had begun its life as a mining vessel before being hastily retrofitted for military service, a common fate for civilian ships as humanity struggled to maintain a presence along the expanding frontier. Its weapon systems were limited but functional, its shields more suited to deflecting asteroids than energy weapons. But what the ship lacked in firepower, Mira compensated for with creativity and the diverse expertise of her crew. She crossed to the tactical display, studying the positions of the dozen mining ships currently harvesting Coronis Phi's riches. Most were civilian operations with minimal defensive capabilities. Their protection fell squarely on the Valor's shoulders. "Captain," came the voice of her communications officer. "I'm picking up distress signals from the outer edge of the convoy." Mira's body tensed. "On screen." The viewport flickered, displaying a chaotic scene of explosions and scattered debris. 3 Xarnath patrol ships had emerged from superluminal travel directly among the mining vessels, their distinctive oblong shapes gleaming with the Empire's trademark golden hulls, methodically fired upon the helpless human ships. "Red alert!" Mira commanded. "All hands to battle stations. Helm, set intercept course." The Valor surged forward, but even as they accelerated, Mira knew they would arrive too late for many of the mining crews. The tactical display showed 5 vessels already destroyed, their signals winking out one by one. "Enemy vessels identified as Claw-class interceptors," Rao reported. "Minimal armor but high maneuverability." "Weapons range in 30 seconds, the tactical officer announced. Mira gripped the command rail. "Target the lead ship. Prepare to fire as soon as we're in range." But before they could engage, a much larger signal appeared at the edge of their sensor range. A Dreadnought-class Xarnath vessel, its profile unmistakable even at this distance. "New contact identified," Rao said, his voice dropping. "Configuration matches the Judge of Silence." The bridge fell quiet. The Judge of Silence was infamous. the flagship of the Zernath fleet in this sector, commanded by Captain Shehun, a veteran of numerous engagements against human forces. Its arrival signaled that this was no random raid, but a coordinated assault. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," the communications officer reported. "Let's hear it," Mira said, bracing herself. The view screen shifted to reveal a Zernath officer, tall, with the characteristic silver-scaled skin of their species and eyes that reflected light, like polished metal. Captain Shehun's voice resonated with the distinctive harmonic undertones of his kind. "Attention, human vessels. This system is now under Imperial jurisdiction by right of superior force. Surrender your ships and prepare for boarding. Resistance will result in your immediate destruction." Mira gestured for the communication to be muted. "Status of the remaining mining vessels?" 7 ships intact, Captain. They're requesting emergency docking." Mira's mind raced through their options. The Valor couldn't outfight a dreadnought, and they couldn't outrun it while loaded with refugees. Their only chance was to buy time until reinforcements could arrive from the nearest human outpost, at least 18 hours away. "Grant all docking requests," she decided, "and prepare to receive survivors." She turned to Rao. "We need to improvise. What's our current mining equipment status?" Rao blinked in momentary confusion before understanding dawned. "We still have the full complement of extractors and processing drones from our last configuration. Engineering reports they're fully operational." "Good. Have Jess Huang meet me in the tactical lab immediately. We're going to rewrite the rules of engagement." As the Valor maneuvered to recover survivors from the destroyed vessels, Mira descended to the ship's lower decks. The tactical laboratory had once been a mineral processing center before its conversion to military use. It still contained numerous pieces of mining equipment that hadn't been completely repurposed. Jess Gearbox Huang was already waiting when Mira arrived. The engineer's overalls were stained with hydraulic fluid, and her hands moved constantly, a habit from years of tinkering with machinery. "Captain," she greeted, "Lieutenant Rao said something about improvising?" "We need weapons, Jess, or the next best thing." "We have weapons," Jess pointed out. "Not enough to take on a dreadnought," Mira countered. "But we have something they won't expect. Mining technology they've never encountered in combat." Jess's eyes lit with understanding. "The pattern-cutting lasers could be reconfigured. They're not powerful enough to penetrate military-grade armor. But they could blind sensors," Mira finished. "And the processing drones." 12 units. Fully operational. They're designed for precision work in asteroid fields, so their maneuverability is excellent. Limited range, though their transmitters aren't designed for combat distances. Mira moved to the laboratory's main console, bringing up schematics of the Valor's remaining equipment. "We don't need to destroy the Zernath ships. We just need to confuse them long enough for our people to escape." Over the next hour, as the Valor continued collecting survivors and maintaining a cautious distance from the advancing Zernath vessels, Mira and Jess worked feverishly to repurpose the ship's mining equipment. The cutting lasers were recalibrated to emit rapid pulses that would scramble optical sensors rather than maintaining the continuous beams used for mining. The processing drones, normally used to sort and refine ore samples, were hastily programmed with evasive maneuvers. "It's not pretty," Jess admitted as they completed their work. "But it might just throw them off balance." Mira nodded. "Have the modifications installed immediately, and send Dr. Koro down here. I need his expertise on Zernath targeting systems." As Jess departed, Mira returned to the bridge, where the situation had deteriorated further. The Zernath patrol ships had formed a blockade formation around the primary escape vector, while the Judge of Silence maintained its inexorable approach. "They're hailing us again," the communications officer reported. "Put it through." Captain Shehun's silver-scaled face appeared once more. "Your delay tactics are futile. Captain Tanaka, our scans indicate your vessel has taken on survivors, but possesses insufficient firepower to challenge our blockade. Surrender now, and I will guarantee the lives of your crew." Mira met his metallic gaze without flinching. "We're still evaluating your proposal, Captain Shehun. Perhaps you could clarify the terms?" The Zernath commander's expression didn't change. Their facial muscles didn't allow for the same range of expressions as humans, but a subtle shift in his posture conveyed irritation. "There are no terms beyond those I have stated. You will power down your shields and prepare for boarding parties." "I see. Then we'll need additional time to prepare our ship for your inspection. Some of our systems were damaged during the initial engagement." "You have 30 minutes, Shehun stated flatly, before terminating the communication. "He knows we're stalling," Rao observed quietly. "Yes, but he's confident enough to allow it," Mira replied. "That arrogance is our only advantage right now." Dr. Koro arrived on the bridge, his slender frame and delicate features belying his expertise in artificial intelligence systems. Born on Europa, he had studied Zernath technology for most of his career before joining the Valor's crew. "You requested my assistance, Captain?" "Dr. Koro, I need everything you know about Zernath targeting algorithms. We're planning something unorthodox." Koro's eyes widened slightly. "Their systems are highly sophisticated but fundamentally predictable. They rely on pattern recognition to distinguish threats from background noise." "Can they be fooled?" A small smile touched the AI specialist's lips. "Any pattern recognition system can be fooled if you understand its parameters. The Zernath prioritize efficiency above all else. Their systems are designed to eliminate wasteful processing cycles. And if we force them to process useless information, they would eventually filter it out. But there would be a lag, perhaps enough to create an opportunity." Mira nodded. "Work with Jess on the final drone programming. I want them ready in 20 minutes. As the deadline approached, the Valor's crew completed their hasty modifications. The mining drones were positioned in the launch bay, their usual sampling equipment replaced with reflective panels and basic electronic countermeasures. The cutting lasers had been mounted on external hardpoints, giving them the appearance of standard point defense weapons while concealing their true purpose. "Zernath vessels are moving into boarding position," Rao reported as the 30-minute mark arrived. "They're launching shuttles." "Hold position," Mira ordered. "Wait for them to commit to the approach." The bridge crew watched tensely as 3 Zernath boarding shuttles detached from the nearest patrol ship and began their approach vector. Each contained a full complement of Imperial Marines, formidable opponents in ship-to-ship combat. "Now," Mira commanded, "execute pattern sunburst." The modified cutting lasers activated simultaneously, but instead of firing destructive beams, they emitted a precisely choreographed sequence of light pulses. The effect was immediate. The approaching shuttles faltered, their navigation systems suddenly bombarded with contradictory sensor readings. "They're attempting to compensate," Koro observed, monitoring the Zernath communications. "Their targeting systems are cycling through filtering algorithms." "Launch the drones," Mira ordered. The mining drones surged from the Valor's bay, their small forms darting between the confused shuttles. Rather than attacking, they began executing a complex series of maneuvers, their reflective panels catching and amplifying the laser pulses. On the tactical display, Mira could see the Zernath shuttle's erratic movements as their pilots struggled to distinguish actual threats from the sensory confusion created by the drones and lasers. "It's working," Rao said, surprised admiration in his voice. "They can't establish a stable approach vector." One of the shuttles veered dangerously close to another, forcing both to take evasive action and retreat to a safe distance. The third continued its approach, but at a drastically reduced speed, its targeting systems effectively neutralized. The communications officer turned to Mira. "Captain, we're being hailed by the patrol ship." On screen, a Zernath officer appeared, not Shehun, but one of his subordinates. "Cease your electronic warfare immediately. You are violating the 3rd protocol of engagement." Mira affected an expression of innocent confusion. Electronic warfare? I'm afraid there must be some misunderstanding. We're simply conducting emergency maintenance on our mining equipment. These calibration tests are standard procedure. The officer's metallic eyes narrowed. Your calibration is interfering with our boarding operations. Is it? I do apologize. Perhaps your systems need adjustment to filter out such routine maintenance activities. Before the Zernath could respond, Mira signaled to cut the transmission. Continue the pattern. Have the drones execute sequence 2. The drones altered their movements, now weaving intricate paths that mimicked the Zernath's own tactical formations, but with subtle, disorienting variations. The effect was to trigger the Empire ship's friend or foe identification systems repeatedly, creating a cascade of false positives and negatives. The patrol ship is recalling its shuttles, Rao reported. They're requesting instructions from the Judge of Silence. Mira allowed herself a small smile. The first round had gone to the Valor, but she harbored no illusions about the challenges ahead. The Zernath would adapt their approach, and Captain Shehun would not be so easily confused a second time. Dr. Koro, she said, I need you to take these tactical successes further. What else can we do to disrupt their systems? The AI specialist contemplated for a moment. The Zernath rely heavily on automated targeting for their primary weapons. Their combat AIs are programmed to recognize specific threat patterns and prioritize targets accordingly. Can we use that against them? Possibly. Koro's fingers danced across his console. If we could transmit false targeting data on their preferred frequencies, their systems might waste computational resources analyzing non-existent threats. Make it happen, Mira ordered, and have Jess prepare the next phase of modifications. We need to stay ahead of their adaptations. As the Valor continued its defensive maneuvers, Lieutenant Rao approached Mira with obvious concern. Captain, may I speak freely? Always, Lieutenant. These tactics. He hesitated. While effective, they skirt the boundaries of established combat protocols. There's no precedent for using mining equipment this way. If the Empire lodges a formal complaint, they'd need to survive to complain, Mira pointed out. But I understand your concern. We're not violating any specific provision of interstellar law. We're simply reinterpreting conventional tactics. The crew is behind you, Rao assured her. I just wanted to be certain you've considered the potential repercussions. Mira's expression softened slightly. I appreciate your diligence, Lieutenant. Right now, our priority is survival. We can debate the finer points of tactical jurisprudence if we make it back to Earth. Their conversation was interrupted by the tactical officer. Captain, the Judge of Silence is launching silent drones. Mira's momentary satisfaction evaporated. Silent drones were specialized Zernath weapons designed to penetrate electronic countermeasures. Their navigation systems were hardened against jamming and used sophisticated algorithms to distinguish genuine targets from decoys. How many? 40 units, approaching in staggered formation. Mira turned to Dr. Koro. Options. The AI specialist frowned. Our current countermeasures won't be effective. Silent drones use optical targeting primarily. They're largely immune to electronic interference. Then we need a different approach, Mira decided. Lieutenant Rao, have engineering reconfigure our shields to display visual patterns. Visual patterns? Rao repeated, puzzled. ASCII art, Mira clarified. Battle instructions, false targeting coordinates, anything complex enough to force their optical systems to waste processing power, decoding meaningless data. Understanding dawned on Rao's face. Ingenious, Captain. I'll relay the order immediately. Within minutes, the Valor's exterior shields began displaying scrolling text patterns, complex enough to trigger the silent drone's pattern recognition systems, but ultimately meaningless. The effect was immediate, as the approaching drones slowed their advance, their processors struggling to interpret the unexpected data. It's working, Koro confirmed, monitoring the drone activity. They're allocating significant resources to decrypt what they believe is tactical data. Maintain the pattern and prepare for Phase 2, Mira ordered. Have Jess ready the mining claw. The mining claw, a massive mechanical apparatus designed to grasp and stabilize asteroids during extraction operations, was the Valor's most powerful remaining piece of mining equipment. Under Jess's direction, the engineering team had spent the past hour converting it into an improvised electromagnetic pulse generator. Claw is charged and ready, Captain, Jess reported from engineering. But, I should warn you, this is a one-shot device. The power surge will burn out the emitter coils. Understood. Hold for my command. On the tactical display, the silent drones had formed a perimeter around the Valor, still hesitating as they processed the shield patterns. But their confusion wouldn't last indefinitely. Captain, the communications officer called. Incoming transmission from the Judge of Silence. Mira nodded, and Captain Shehun's face appeared on the screen. Unlike before, the Zernath commander's expression showed unmistakable irritation. Your improvisations are amusing, Captain Tanaka, but ultimately futile. You've merely delayed the inevitable. Perhaps, Mira acknowledged. Or perhaps we're demonstrating that the inevitable is more flexible than your doctrine suggests. Shehun's metallic eyes narrowed. The Empire's approach to warfare has been refined over millennia. Your tricks are but temporary inconveniences. Then, you won't mind if we continue to inconvenience you while we consider our options. My patience is not infinite, Shehun warned. You have 1 hour to surrender before I authorize the use of primary weapons against your vessel. As the transmission ended, Mira turned to her crew. That gives us 1 hour to implement the next phase. Dr. Koro, what's the status of the arcade code integration? Koro looked up from his station. Complete, Captain. I've uploaded classic space combat algorithms into the remaining mining drones. They're now capable of executing maneuvers based on 20th century arcade game patterns. Excellent. And our evacuation status? All survivors have been processed, Rao reported. 273 additional personnel aboard. Life support is strained but manageable for the short term. Mira nodded. Begin preparations for emergency jump. If we can break through the blockade, we'll need to be ready to execute immediately. The hour passed with feverish activity as the Valor's crew completed their preparations. The silent drones maintained their perimeter, but hadn't advanced further, a testament to the effectiveness of the shield patterns in confusing their targeting systems. Time's up, Rao announced as the deadline arrived. All hands, brace for evasive maneuvers, Mira ordered. Execute Operation Arcade. Dr. Koro activated his program, and the remaining mining drones surged from the Valor's bay. Unlike before, they now moved in patterns familiar to any human who had played classic arcade games, weaving, bobbing, and executing perfect figure-eights around the silent drones. The Zernath combat AI is attempting to predict their movements, Koro reported, monitoring the enemy response. But the patterns don't match any recognized combat formation. On the tactical display, the silent drones could be seen adjusting their positions repeatedly, struggling to establish targeting locks on the erratically moving mining drones. The Judge of Silence is powering up its main cannon, the tactical officer warned. Now, Jess, Mira commanded, activate the claw. From the Valor's underside, the massive mining claw extended to its full length. For a moment, it appeared to be grasping at nothing. Then a blinding pulse of electromagnetic energy surged from its tines, washing over the nearest cluster of silent drones. The effect was immediate and devastating. 8 drones went dark instantly, their systems overloaded by the unexpected electromagnetic pulse. The others scattered, their formation disrupted. Direct hit, Jess crowed over the comm. The claw's fried, but it did the job. Helm, set course for the mining ring, Mira ordered. Full impulse power. The Valor surged forward, heading toward the orbital mining infrastructure that circled Coronis 4, a complex arrangement of processing stations, refineries, and guide beacons. If they could reach the ring, its dense metal structures would provide some cover from the dreadnought's weapons. "The patrol ships are moving to intercept," Rao reported. "Deploy remaining mining drones in Sequence Defender," Mira commanded. The drones, still executing their arcade-inspired maneuvers, formed a loose screen between the Valor and the pursuing patrol ships. Their unpredictable movements forced the Zernath vessels to reduce speed to avoid collisions. "We're approaching the mining ring," the helm officer announced. 30 seconds to entry." "The Judge of Silence is in pursuit," the tactical officer warned. "They're charging weapons." Mira's mind raced through their options. They had survived this long through unpredictability and improvisation. They needed one more unexpected maneuver to escape. "Dr. Koro," she said suddenly, "can you project holographic images using our shield emitters?" The AI specialist blinked in surprise. "Crude ones. Yes. The resolution would be poor, but I don't need high resolution. I need volume. Can you project multiple ship silhouettes around us?" Understanding dawned on Koro's face. "Yes, Captain. Give me 2 minutes." "You have one," Mira replied, then turned to Jess. "I need every remaining drone equipped with reflective panels and programmed to amplify our shield projections." As the Valor entered the mining ring, weaving between massive processing structures, Koro and Jess worked frantically to implement Mira's plan. The Judge of Silence followed more cautiously, its size making navigation through the ring more challenging. "Drones modified and deployed," Jess reported. "Reflective panels at maximum diffusion." "Holographic projectors online," Koro added. "Ready on your mark." "Execute synchronized swarm," Mira ordered. The shield emitters flared, projecting crude holographic images of the Valor in multiple directions. Simultaneously, the drones positioned themselves to catch and amplify these projections, creating the illusion of dozens of identical ships suddenly appearing throughout the mining ring. On the bridge of the Judge of Silence, Captain Shehun watched in confusion as his tactical display filled with identical signatures. "Impossible," he muttered. "Scan for the genuine vessel." But the Valor's modifications had been too effective. The reflective panels on the drones scattered sensor readings, while the holographic projections moved in perfect synchronization with the actual ship. The Zernath targeting computers, attempting to process the contradictory data, began diverting increasingly large portions of the ship's computational resources to the task. "Their main targeting array is offline," Koro reported triumphantly. "They can't distinguish between our projections and the actual ship." Mira allowed herself a brief smile. "Helm, set course for the edge of the ring. Prepare for emergency jump as soon as we clear the interference zone." As the Valor continued its evasive maneuvers through the mining ring, a new complication arose. The Judge of Silence, unable to target effectively with its automated systems, had switched to manual targeting, a less efficient but potentially effective approach. "Captain," Rao warned, "they're preparing to saturate the entire area with weapons fire. If they can't target us precisely, they'll destroy everything in the vicinity." Mira's momentary triumph faded. Such an attack would obliterate the mining infrastructure, billions of credits worth of equipment, and the economic lifeblood of multiple colonies. "We need one more distraction," she decided. "Dr. Koro, can you transmit entertainment data on their tactical frequencies?" Koro stared at her. "Entertainment data?" "Music, imagery. Anything distinctly human and completely irrelevant to combat." The AI specialist hesitated only briefly before nodding. "I have a library of classic Earth entertainment. I can broadcast it on all frequencies." "Do it," Mira ordered. "Maximum bandwidth." Koro's fingers flew across his console, and suddenly, the space around the Valor was flooded with transmissions, snippets of 20th century music, fragmented videos, and classical literature, all broadcast directly on the frequencies used by Zernath tactical systems. The effect was immediate and profound. The Judge of Silence's weapons powered down as its systems struggled to process the massive influx of irrelevant data. Monitoring the Zernath communications, Mira could hear the confusion spreading through their command structure. Unknown attack vector. Systems reporting entertainment content as tactical data. Unable to distinguish signal from noise. But the most surprising development came moments later, when portions of the Zernath crew apparently began responding to the entertainment content itself. "Captain," Koro reported incredulously, "I'm detecting Zernath communications discussing the relative merits of human music genres. They're debating artistic preferences." Mira blinked in surprise. "They're what?" "It appears some crew members find the transmissions intriguing rather than hostile. Their battle AI has diverted significant resources to analyzing the cultural significance of the content." On the main view screen, Mira could see the Judge of Silence holding position, its weapon systems inactive. The patrol ships had also ceased their pursuit, maintaining formation around their flagship, but taking no aggressive action. "Captain," the communications officer called. "Incoming transmission from Captain Shehun." Mira straightened her uniform. On screen, the Zernath commander appeared, his metallic eyes unreadable. For a long moment, he simply stared at Mira, as if reassessing everything he thought he knew about human tactics. "Your methods are unorthodox, Captain Tanaka," he finally said, each word carefully measured. "We prefer to think of them as adaptive," Mira replied. "My crew is experiencing unexpected reactions to your transmissions. Several departments have requested time to analyze the cultural data before proceeding with combat operations." Mira struggled to keep her expression neutral. Cultural exchange is a cornerstone of diplomatic relations. "Captain Shehun, perhaps this encounter could serve a purpose beyond military confrontation." The Zernath commander's gaze shifted slightly, as if consulting with someone off-screen. When he returned his attention to Mira, his posture had subtly changed. "The Imperial mandate requires the establishment of absolute control through overwhelming force. However, the application of force presupposes the ability to target effectively." He paused. "You have demonstrated that our current targeting protocols are inadequate when faced with your particular approach to combat." Mira recognized the statement for what it was, a face-saving way to withdraw without admitting defeat. "Perhaps both our species could benefit from further study of each other's methodologies." "Indeed." Shehun inclined his head slightly. "I am ordering my vessels to withdraw to the outer system to conduct a thorough review of this engagement. You may proceed with your evacuation, provided you maintain your current course away from Imperial space." The transmission ended, and for a moment, the Bridge of the Valor was silent with disbelief. "Did we just win?" Rao asked cautiously. "I believe," Mira said slowly, "we just confused them into a tactical withdrawal." She turned to the helm. "Set course for the rendezvous coordinates. Let's get our people home." As the Valor cleared the mining ring and prepared for its jump to safety, Mira allowed herself to reflect on what they had accomplished. They had faced overwhelming odds with nothing but mining equipment and human ingenuity, and somehow prevailed. "Dr. Koro," she said, "prepare a complete record of everything we just did. Every improvisation, every modification. I want it documented and transmitted to Fleet Command as soon as we're in range." The AI specialist nodded. "Already in progress, Captain. I've taken the liberty of organizing it into a tactical manual of sorts." "A manual?" Mira raised an eyebrow. Koro smiled. "I've tentatively titled it The Rules of War, Human Adaptation Protocols for Asymmetric Engagement." Lieutenant Rao, overhearing this, approached with a thoughtful expression. "You know, I was concerned about breaking protocol earlier, but perhaps some rules were meant to be rewritten." "Not rewritten," Mira corrected him gently. "Reinterpreted. The fundamental principles remain the same. Protect your people, accomplish the mission, survive to fight another day, It's the methods that must evolve. As the stars streaked past the viewport, the Valor carrying its precious cargo of survivors toward safety, Mira thought about the legacy of this encounter. They had demonstrated that humanity's greatest strength lay not in firepower or numbers, but in creativity, the willingness to improvise, to find joy even in danger, to dance at the edge of destruction. 3 months later, Captain Mira Tanaka stood at attention in the Grand Hall of the United Earth Government. The elaborate ceremony, a sharp contrast to the desperate improvisations that had saved her ship and crew. Before her, Admiral Chen carefully pinned the newly minted Medal of Improvised Valor to her uniform. For exceptional creativity in the face of overwhelming odds, the citation read, and for establishing new paradigms of adaptive warfare that will protect humanity for generations to come. The Valor's encounter with the Judge of Silence had become required study at the Fleet Academy. The rules of war, as Dr. Koro's manual was now officially known, had been distributed throughout human space. Mining vessels were being systematically evaluated for their potential tactical applications, and civilian engineers like Jess Huang were being consulted on military design projects. But perhaps most significantly, diplomatic channels with the Zernath Empire had cautiously reopened. The exchange of cultural information, begun as a desperate battle tactic, had sparked genuine interest among certain segments of Zernath society. Preliminary discussions suggested the possibility of designated neutral zones, where limited trade might eventually occur. As the ceremony concluded, Mira found herself surrounded by her former crew. Jess had traded her stained overalls for a consultant's uniform, while Dr. Koro had been appointed to lead a new research division focused on cross-species AI development. Even Lieutenant Rao, once the voice of caution, now spoke enthusiastically about tactical innovations. "They're calling it the Tanaka Doctrine," he informed her with evident pride. "Adaptive response prioritized over rigid protocols." Mira shook her head, somewhat embarrassed by the attention. "We did what was necessary, nothing more." "Sometimes necessity is the catalyst for evolution," Dr. Koro observed. "The Zernath have dominated this sector for centuries because no one challenged their fundamental assumptions about warfare. You change that." Later that evening, as Mira reviewed her new assignment, command of a purpose-built vessel designed to incorporate the lessons learned aboard the Valor, she received an unexpected transmission. The sender identification was encrypted, but the message itself was clear. "Creativity deserves study. Your rules of war have prompted reconsideration of Imperial tactical doctrine. The dance continues." It wasn't signed, but Mira had little doubt about its origin. Somewhere in Zernath space, Captain Shehun was likely supervising drills that incorporated elements of human unpredictability, perhaps even teaching his crews to dance. She smiled at the thought. The galaxy was vast and often dangerous, the conflicts between species seemingly inevitable. But perhaps the true rules of war weren't about destruction at all, but about finding unexpected paths to understanding, even across the Gulf of Stars. In a remote Zernath academy, far from the political centers of the Empire, a group of cadets moved in careful formation. Their instructor, a veteran of the Coronis 4 engagement, watched with critical eyes as they executed maneuvers that would have been unthinkable months earlier, fluid, adaptive, almost artistic in their unpredictability. "Again," he ordered. "But this time, consider what your opponent does not expect. The true victory lies not in overwhelming force, but in transcending the established rules of engagement." As the cadets resumed their practice, a single screen displayed their inspiration. Footage from the Valor's improbable victory. The mining drones dancing like stars around the silent predators of the Empire. The rules of war were changing, one improvisation at a time,